Hey folks, we made it to December. Hope the first round of your holidays went well and are looking forward to the upcoming break as we get through the month of December and into the new year already. 2026 doesn't feel real. It's a fake number, I'm sure, right? Hope you're all staying warm, staying healthy. For our December newsletter this month, just a couple quick updates, nothing too crazy, but I wanted to continue just adding some tips and tricks related to some AI tools as we've been talking about this year. And then there's a couple new features to be aware of within our Google Workspace as well. And as a friendly reminder, if you ever need help with something, the ticket system is the best way to go. Never hesitate to use the HPS tech support, even if it's just a how-to question. Instead of just reporting problems, we use that for our home base for answering questions or leading you to guides or doing some basic training there. And naturally, if you need a little bit more than that, we have our iSchool website where you can book in-person trainings, whether that's face-to-face or remote sessions as well. So definitely take advantage of those as you need help throughout your work days, and we'll be there to support you. And so for just in terms of some Google Workspace updates, I wanted to reiterate a feature that has kind of come about this school year as a way to identify where files are in relation to collaboration and sharing. As you know, we have a Google environment that we create documents and we share them back and forth. And sometimes the staff member that creates those documents moves on to other things. And the way Google works is that if somebody just creates a file in their own drive, they are the owner of that and they can give access to other people, right? But what happens is the owner of that, if it's just an individual and they leave, what we've seen lately is a label that gets thrown on these called pending deletion. And we've answered a bunch of questions. We've talked about it in newsletters past, but I just wanted to reiterate a couple things related to this. So pending deletion is a warning. It doesn't mean that it's going to go away immediately. The warning is there for two reasons. One, it's to let you know that this particular file is owned by somebody who is inactive in our system. They aren't part of Haverhill Public Schools anymore. And the way they stored the file was tied to them. And so the best practice with this is to then move any files that have this label to a more appropriate storage. And so this is that kind of two-parter thing to it. One, it's just a warning. It doesn't mean it's going away immediately. It just means that eventually action should be taken, or else these files can go away in terms of your immediate access to them. And so number one, it's the warning. And then number two is the best practice. The best practice for this is instead of utilizing my drive as the place where you share files out, that's your own storage area. And yes, you can provide some collaboration opportunities in there just by simply sharing things. But the best practice for collaboration and for future proofing is to take use of shared drives. Any shared drives here are owned by the organization. They aren't owned by an individual. And so as you collaborate with your building, with your department, with your peers within a shared drive, any work you do here is future proof. And so creating files within this structure of a shared drive, moving files into this structure of a shared drive, even if it means you just make a copy and dump it in, that's our best practice. That's the part two to this. And so as you see this label that says, hey, pending deletion, don't have to throw up red flags and think that things are going to go away immediately. That's not the point. The point is that, hey, this is something to take action about. And then two, just be conscious of using that shared drives as your predominant place to collaborate going forward. Okay? The next new feature just to be aware of is related to our calendars. So Google Calendar is a great tool to organize our day, organize our time, obviously for scheduling meetings and making sure we're all available when things come. But they added a new feature pretty recently where when you go to create an event, you can actually create a task type of event. And what I personally like about this is we are in control of our day very often, right? Yes, there are things that come our way. There are meetings that take up, classes that we're doing, all the things. But there are times that we need to block off just for our own personal needs. And this is what this task idea is all about here, where on your calendar, you can create dedicated time for you to do a task. It's a great to-do list potentially. But it also blocks your calendar off so that you are not only planning your day and you can say, okay, well, I had this meeting and I had this event and I had this things I'm doing with other people, but then here's some me time. Here's some of my time that I can use to focus my attention. Maybe I add some files to that. Maybe I add some to-do lists to that. And so then I have dedicated time throughout my work day or work week that is just for me, that I can handle the things that I need to handle. So take advantage of that feature. Create an event in your calendar and just label it as a task and fill out that required form from there, and then you're good. All right, and then finally for our AI tip of the month, we talked a lot the first couple months here about using Gemini as a tool to get into this AI space, to different prompts that we can use, different ways that we can take advantage of the system. And I want to pivot a little bit to a more specific AI tool that's available to us. It's called NotebookLM. What's interesting about it to me is it kind of takes this idea of AI and allows us to focus our attention a little bit more. Gemini is a tool that uses the entirety of the internet. We can use prompts, we can generate content, we can ask questions, and it basically is, it's almost like an internet search helper, where instead of us Googling on our own, we can ask Gemini questions and prompts and have it generate content and kind of have a conversation to fine tune that content, vet the data, do all of those things and learn some stuff, use it to create some content, do some back and forth. Very interesting, very helpful, I think, as we found, and as you've played with it, I'm sure you've found the same. But sometimes we have our own materials that we need to analyze or to learn from or to ask questions or to generate materials from. And that's where NotebookLM comes into play, where it is a dedicated AI website that's part of our Google environment that lets us create these virtual notebooks and provide our own resources too. And then the AI tool is focused just on those resources. And so if you go to notebooklm.google.com and sign in with your Haverhill account, you'll have any notebooks you saved already, and naturally you can create a new one. And it walks you through the steps the very first time. And effectively what you're doing is you're just adding sources to it. And the sources can be anything from Google Drive files, they can be websites, they can be PDFs, they can be literally any digital resources you have access to. And I have an example here where we have some technology documentation that we use for our technician training and our department, just to have resources for supporting all of you guys. And I just, as an example, I threw a bunch of these things in here. And what's great about it immediately is it gives you a curated description of what it found just based on the resources you shared. You have some interactive questions that it guesses that you want to ask just based on the material, but you can just do the start typing. And then this is a very familiar process if you used Gemini before, where you just give it a prompt, but the prompt and the resources are all focused on whatever we added to this environment. It doesn't source anything else. It is only looking at the content that we have provided in here. And so it is potentially a really great learning tool, a really great brainstorming tool, maybe a way to summarize a lot of data or to ask questions on larger documents, or maybe to see connections between a bunch of different resources that you have. And the other thing that's really interesting about it too is they have this whole studio concept here where it can create interactive and multimedia tools and resources based on that same data. So instead of just typing on prompt and asking questions, you can actually have it generate a bunch of different things here. And so just as a visual example here, I had to generate a mind map for us, and it did that. It looked at all the resources I added, it chunked them into different categories, and then it linked the appropriate resources and footnoted all of them in terms of how it brought that all about. And so super interesting. Obviously, just like any AI tool, you vet the data, you trust it for what it is, but you have to make sure that it does a good job with the materials that you've given it and the prompts that you're asking. But super interesting. And I personally really like this idea that you have the ability to customize and focus your AI tool experience. And that's what this NotebookLM thing is all about. So I'd strongly encourage you to play around with it, see how it goes, add a few resources, add a few websites, and just start asking it questions. If you felt like Gemini was a little too open-ended, this is a great approach to say, hey, let's focus our attention a little bit more. So happy AI with that, and see how that goes as another part of your tool set. All right, and that's what we have for the month of December. I hope that you're all doing well. Enjoy the rest of the holiday season. Enjoy your breaks as you have them, and we'll see you in the new year.